Hello everyone, and today we have a video that's been prepared with a 2,000 word document written by yours truly. And so as the title says, this is some of the biggest changes that have happened in OSRS's history about. Obviously, most notably, I poop you not, the Rune Medhelm is getting a buff. You heard it here first, folks. The Rune Medhelm is indeed getting a buff. One of these changes are like pretty controversial, actually like two of them, or like all of them. But the one in particular that a lot of people are going to be interested in is the Toxic Blowpipe. After like, what, 8 years? I don't even know. It's going to be nerfed, and it's quite a significant nerf. So let's talk about these changes, what I think about them, and what effect they're going to have on the game. So the whole premise of this dev blog is based on a survey they did that had 10,000 responses, and I just wanted to say real quick how kind of insignificant 10,000 responses is when the game can have, some sources say, up to 2 million unique players per month, but that's probably during a peak. But 10,000 players just really isn't a lot, but that's what they've based this dev blog on. I just wanted to mention that. But the main takeaways from this survey is that people think power creep exists, and they're scared that it will hurt the life of OSRS in the long term. And also in the survey, they said they want weak equipment buffed, but they don't want good equipment nerfed. So the first set of changes are saying that these weapons are simply too powerful for their level requirement, meaning their level requirement is too low. So instead of nerfing the weapons themselves, they're just upping the level requirement, which in turn, in the future, gives them more room in the level requirement like tier list. It gives them more room to put in more different weapons in the future. These weapons are Ghrazi Rapier, Blade of Saeldor, Inquisitor's Mace, Trident of the Swamp, Sanguinesti Staff, Kodai Wand, Nightmare Staff, all variants, Dragonhide crossbow, Dragonhide lance, and the Scythe of Vitur. There are others, but we'll mention them later. All of these weapons have their level requirement buffs by 5 to 10 levels. So in the long term, this really doesn't do anything, because I really doubt that there's someone with 75 attack who's about to buy a Scythe of Vitur and they're about to be upset because they're going to need 85 attack to wear it, you know what I mean? So this is a good change, it doesn't really do anything. So next is the Neitiznot Faceguard. This is a Neitiznot helmet with an expensive attachment attached to it from a drop from a Slayer creature. The Slayer creature is pretty tough to kill, and the Neitiznot Faceguard has been best in slot strength bonus for a long time. And they're proposing to make its strength bonus equal to a Serpentine helm, so it just won't be best in slot anymore, since Serp helm is tankier, but Neitiznot Faceguard has some prayer bonus. So it doesn't really do a lot, other than it just makes Neitiznot Faceguard not best in slot anymore for strength bonus. And while reading through my notes, my friend Bownator thought it'd be funny to mention that when they introduced the Neitiznot Faceguard, they nerfed Serpentine helm, and now they're nerfing the Neitiznot Faceguard to make Serpentine helm like equal again. I thought that was kind of funny. What's this? Hold on. Quick break. Intermission. Look at this. Medhelms. Thank you, I will add them to my collection. So next, they mention the Twisted Bow, and time to get scared. Are they going to nerf the Twisted Bow? No, they're not nerfing the Twisted Bow. All they're doing to the Twisted Bow is making its range requirement 85 from 75, and they're going to remove the +4 prayer bonus. I didn't even know it had +4 prayer bonus, so that's fine with me. And the reason they didn't nerf the Twisted Bow is because they mentioned how it's very easy to balance around the Twisted Bow, since if they don't want the Twisted Bow to be best against a creature that they're going to release, they simply don't give the creature a high mage level, since that's where Twisted Bow's power comes from. They can make it weak to range, but also not make Twisted Bow best against it by just not giving it a high magic level. So yeah, they didn't change the Twisted Bow. Now, moving on to some of the bigger changes, Dragonhide armor has always been super cheap for the stats they give. You get an absurd mage defense, quite a bit of melee and range defense too. And so I'll put the comparisons on screen post versus pre-nerf. I'm not going to say the numbers, it's way too many. But overall, all of the Black Dhide's melee defenses are going to be nerfed by about 40%. While the magic and range defenses are being nerfed by about 10%. I think this is like fine. The mage defense might be a bit much, we'll discuss why in the next section, but this makes Dinh actually weak against melee, which reinforces the combat triangle, because melee is meant to beat range and Dinh is a range armor. So this is fine on its own, but with the next change, it's pretty huge. So the Dinh's Bulwark. Dinh's Bulwark has been absurd ever since release. So I thought of a lot of arguments to present the Dinh's Bulwark, but I chose this one. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So inherently, because the Dinh's Bulwark is a two-handed shield, it's going to be insanely defensive. Because you're dedicating both slots to being defensive, it should be effective, right? Pre-nerf, one Dinh's Bulwark is equivalent to almost exactly 2 fully charged Dragonfire shields, which is an insane amount of defense. But now saying that, I think the law of diminishing returns should apply to the Dinh's Bulwark as it does rune simmies and rune defenders, for example. For example, if you have a dragon scimitar, that's going to be like 90% of your DPS, right? And if you pair that up with a dragon defender, which is an offensive shield slot item, you're going to get like maybe 10% more DPS, for example. So you know, you dedicate both slots to being defensive and you get like 1.1, maybe 1.2 times the effectiveness, right? Whereas with the Dinh's Bulwark, you dedicate both slots and you get 2 times the effectiveness because you got 2 times, you're effectively wearing 2 DFSs. Now saying that is ignoring that the Elysian Spirit Shield exists, but it is like, oh my goodness, Elysian is 1 bill. Fun fact, I bought this Elysian for 349 mil. But yeah, you're effectively, for both slots, you're getting 2 times defensive effectiveness, whereas for offense, you'd only get 1.1 or 1.2 times effectiveness if you dedicated both slots. So you can see how the diminishing returns hasn't been applied to the Dinh's Bulwark. So to combat this, what they've done is they've made it effectively the same as 1.5 times DFSs, and they've given it a huge minus 25 magic defense, which is insane. Its range defense hasn't changed, but its melee defense is equivalent to about 1.5 times DFSs. So this reinforces the combat triangle. It's very good against range, it's okay against melee, and it sucks against mage. It's meant to be a shield that protects against arrows in the medieval times. It's just a big fat shield. But let's talk about that magic defense. So if you were doing black chin chompers, for example, you'd be wearing full black D-hide and a bulwark. Pre-nerf, this would give you 86 magic defense with no other gear. Post-nerf, this means you'll have 51 magic defense. You've just lost a third of your magic defense because you've lost 10 from black D-hide body and legs in total, and you've lost 25 from the bulwark. So yeah, you're lost a third of your magic defense, so you're gonna get frozen a whole lot. But saying that, I think the main problem with Dinh's Bulwark is it's just so ridiculously cheap and easy to obtain, because a Dinh's Bulwark isn't the most effective defensive strategy if you're being defensive against players. For example, I'll put this screenshot of Thurko, his black chin setup. He's utilizing, obviously there's an Elysian Spirit Shield there, but that could easily be replaced with a Crystal Shield, and Staff of the Dead that makes you take half melee damage for 60 seconds. So that's obviously going to be way more effective at tanking than a Dinh's Bulwark. But it's just because the Dinh's Bulwark is so cheap and so effective for the price it is and how easy it is to obtain. So I think that's the main problem. So overall, I think it's a good change, but I don't agree with the minus 25 magic defense, maybe minus 10 or minus 5 or even 0. Now before we move on to perhaps the biggest nerf in this video, the toxic blowpipe, a very quick word from our sponsor of this video. But first, this video is brought to you by the Ridge Wallet. All of Ridge's wallets are light and sleek looking. It isn't bulky or bulgy in your pocket. Their wallets can hold up to 12 cards plus room for cash. There's also over 30 colors and styles to choose from, including carbon fiber and burnt titanium. My goodness, those sound very cool. Ridge has over 40,000 5-star reviews. If you don't like the wallet, you can send it back and get a refund within 45 days. So if you're interested in getting a new wallet or getting someone else's new wallet, go to ridge.com/Jakey and use the discount code Jakey for 10% off your order. The link is also in the description. Thank you, Ridge, for sponsoring this video. Anyway, let's move on to the biggest and genuinely one of the biggest nerfs, like almost ever. The toxic blowpipe has always been overpowered. You would be lying if you said that blowpipe was OP, and this puts us all in a tough position because we all want the blowpipe to be amazing because it has been for the last 8 years or whatever. Now, because it attacks fast, it's inherently good because you're going to have very limited overkill damage. Overkill damage is if a monster has 10 HP left and you're going to hit a 30, you've lost 20 damage, right? But because it attacks fast and hits smaller, you're minimizing your overkill damage. But also ignoring that, it just dishes out an absurd amount of damage. Now, Jagex have said originally the blowpipe was meant to be a 3-tick weapon, but due to an oversight with the rapid attack style, which speeds up any weapon's attack cycle by 1 tick, it becomes a 2-tick weapon. I don't think this is true at all because that's an absurdly silly oversight even for Jagex's standards. What I do believe is the blowpipe was polled to be as fast as a magic shortbow, but what they failed to mention is when they said same speed as a magic shortbow, they meant a blowpipe on accurate will be the same speed as a magic shortbow on rapid, which clearly isn't the same speed. Magic shortbow on rapid is 3 ticks, blowpipe on accurate is 3 ticks, but blowpipe on rapid is 2 ticks. So yeah, that was a bit silly. So here are the nerfs itself. Oh boy. So with blowpipe, you have 2 components. You have the base blowpipe's accuracy and damage, and then you have the darts you put in it, which gives it more accuracy and damage, both of which have been nerfed. Let's talk about the first one. The base blowpipe has had its accuracy cut in half, and its base strength almost cut in half, which is insane. That's a huge nerf. So right off the bat, you have half the accuracy and almost half the damage. But this isn't a straight up 50% nerf. since you get stats from the darts that you use. It's not actually 50% less effective. Let's talk about the second variable here, the darts. Low level darts are trash. They've been nerfed to the ground. Your blowpipe will be half as effective using these in some places. Whereas the higher level darts, specifically the dragon darts, they really haven't been touched a lot other than the accuracy has been decreased a little bit, but they can still have the same max hit themselves. So I acquired these stats from someone in Oblivion PVM, so thank you for those guys for giving me this. This assumes you have max range, dragon darts, a normal range pot, and rigor using a blowpipe. Here's a bunch of bosses that you would commonly use a blowpipe at. And you can see it varies, but about 20 to 30% less effective the blowpipe will be against these bosses. That's with dragon darts. So it would be very safe to assume, since the darts get exponentially worse the lower tier you go, it's safe to assume your blowpipe will become way less effective pre versus post nerf the lower tier darts you use, which means cheaply using adamant darts for something just won't be effective anymore. You'll be better off using a whip or a crystal bow, which we'll talk about later. I could talk about the blowpipe forever, but just know this is the biggest change by far, and on average, even with the best darts, your blowpipe's going to be 20 to 30% less effective. So we still have a few big changes to go through, but here's some little ones. So the Dragonbone necklace is a necklace that restores prayer points when you bury a bone. If you pair this up with a bonecrusher, your prayer points automatically get restored. A bonecrusher automatically buries bones for you. So while you're chinning, a bonecrusher and a Dragonbone necklace is great because it automatically buries the bones and restores your prayer points. But the only problem with this, it didn't give you any offense like glory or fury or anything. So in this buff, they've just given the necklace a little bit more accuracy, plus 10 accuracy bonus, which is like fine. I don't think this will make it. You'd only ever use this chinning. I don't think you'll ever use it outside of chinning, but it's a nice change. Not much more to mention there. Now, the potential competitor to the blowpipe, and it will probably be better than the blowpipe in some areas if the blowpipe nerf goes through, and it will mean I'll have to redo my crystal bow and crystal armor video. So if you didn't know, the crystal bow and the crystal armor have a set effect which is in the game right now. So for each piece that you wear, you get a 3% damage boost and a 6% accuracy boost. But if you wear all of the pieces, you get a 15% damage boost and a 30% accuracy boost. But what they're proposing is they're going to buff the damage set effect from 15 to 20%. Which combined with the blowpipe nerf means that using full crystal is a really solid chance. Like, it's super solid against other things that blowpipe used to be good against. I'll need to experiment with this again once this actually goes through, because I did experiment with this once before, and full crystal was okay at like bosses with like high defense since it had some good accuracy. But yeah, just know crystal armor and crystal bow will be a very solid choice if blowpipe is no longer viable at your given event or task. So here's some low-level buffs. So rune warhammers were always, for some reason, just worse than rune battle axes. So they've just buffed them so they're equivalent to rune battle axes except their crush, which is fine. Maces, spears, and hastaes have had their attack cycles reduced from 5 to 4, so they've been sped up, which is a pretty big change for mid to low levels since you have no good stab weapon until you have a Zami Hastae spear or Ghrazi Rapier. Then another cool change, I don't think it'll make a big difference, but it's kind of neat. Light metal armor, like chain bodies, med helms, and square shields will no longer have any negative range attack bonuses. Wait, did they say med helm? The rune med helm's getting a buff? Boys, the rune med helm has always been OP, but now it's getting a buff. My goodness, we're going to be the most powerful unit in all of the land. Yeah, I'm kidding. This means you can use them with range without much detriment to your range offense, whereas tankier armors are going to have their negative ranged attack bonus increased by 50%. For example, the rune plate body has minus 10 range bonus, and then after the nerf, or the buff, however you see it, it will have minus 15 ranged attack bonus. So it gives you more an incentive to use light rune armor or light bronze armor with range if you want to be tankier. Now that is all of the changes. Now that is my 2,000 word essay. I skipped over some of it because it's kind of redundant, but I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Now please note that this is all Jags are very much taking feedback on board, so all of this is probably going to change, or all of the controversial ones are probably going to change, specifically the blowpipe, because at the moment, if you don't use dragon darts, the blowpipe sucks, and even then, it's going to be 30% worse than before. I think overall these changes are fine-ish. I don't think any of them are absurd or uncalled for. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments, what you think of all of the changes, and yeah, I look forward to having to test all of these changes out when they're implemented. If you want to leave feedback to Jagex for these changes, they are looking and scouting out feedback on Reddit and Twitter. That's the 2007 Scape Reddit and Twitter, as long as you at JMod, I suppose. So yeah, anyway, I hope you found this informative. I found this really interesting. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you, who knows when, but we'll be testing this all out when it's implemented. Also, something real funny just happened. I literally just said thanks for watching, and then an update regarding equipment rebalancing and our next steps just came out. So they haven't just made everything I just said obsolete at all, but what they've said is, I'll go through it right now. So what they've said is they're looking into the blowpipe, because everyone has said the blowpipe nerf is extremely harsh, so they're going to look into that, so it's probably going to be not as harsh, but they haven't released any numbers yet. So the Dragonhide defensive stats reduction, it was kind of vague because Blessed Dragonhide wasn't mentioned, and Blessed Dragonhide is the exact same as Black D'hide, except it has a prayer bonus, so would that defensive bonus be nerfed too? They said the Dinh's Bulwark changes aren't good because people think it will become even less powerful, which I kind of agree, but like I think it's fine. And also this is a very good one. The players feel that our proposed change to the Neitiznot Faceguard will render it obsolete. This is very true because the Serpentine Helm is just the Neitiznot Faceguard but better. So there's no reason to nerf it, right? Because you have the same helmet except one's better, even though the Neitiznot Faceguard was released after and it's meant to be best in slot. And then people were confused over why the Blowpipe is being nerfed so much, yet Twisted Bow and Scythe of Vitur haven't been changed. So they really haven't said a lot, but they've said, so it looks like the Blowpipe probably won't be as nerfed as harshly as I've just said. Otherwise, yes, everything I said isn't obsolete, everything is still accurate. They're just thinking about not nerfing Blowpipe as harshly. That's the main one. Anyway, sorry. Thanks for watching once again. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.